Epstein may be gone, but the network he built didn't disappear with him. The high-profile figures he was connected to continue their shady dealings. And, as Joe Rogan recently pointed out, his death didn't stop anything. The real orchestrators behind the blackmail ring are still out there, pulling the strings and staying in the shadows, far from the public eye.
They compromised people.
And it's been going on forever.
Yeah,
Forever, dude.
It's got to be going on right now still.
100%, but
it's got to be happening somewhere where you can get away with it.
The people who partied with Epstein, the regulars at his secluded Zorro ranch, were never truly held accountable. Their names remain hidden, shielded by redacted documents and the NDAs Epstein forced his victims to sign, still quietly in effect today. This elite circle spans some of Hollywood's biggest stars, high-ranking government officials across the US, UK, Saudi Arabia, and Europe, and even CEOs of major global corporations. Even after Epstein's death, these powerful figures continue to protect one another, which is why the DOJ has yet to release the full list of clients.
It seems so crazy to think there's not a list.
That's what Jimmy said. He's a tinfoil hat guy.
There's a lady in jail for trafficking.
And Jimmy would acknowledge it.
To no one. Like, there's no one who's been arrested that she sex trafficked to.
And that's what Aaron's saying.
Well, there's a list that's out. Who knows if it's fake? I don't know. It could be a fake list. Who knows? But Chris Tucker's on that list, and they asked Chris Tucker on a podcast, "What's up with you being on the list?" He didn't do what Jimmy Kimmel said. Jimmy Kimmel said it's a fake list. Who cares what that list says? It's fake.
Right.
Chris Tucker goes, "Yeah, I did go on that flight, but we went to Africa, and I went with a bunch of diplomats. I didn't know who this Epstein guy was." Like Chris Tucker says, like, I had no idea. We were on this plane. We were going to Africa, do some diplomatic shit, and turns out I didn't know.
Well, they definitely got people connected to him by using famous people.
Yes. Yeah.
Because,
my point was, Chris Tucker basically confirmed that the list was like legit because he's on it.
Right.
Chris Tucker's name first surfaced in connection with Epstein years ago. Leaked photos showed Tucker alongside President Bill Clinton on Epstein's infamous private jet. On September 2, 2002, Tucker reportedly traveled to Africa with Epstein, Clinton, and Kevin Spacey aboard that very jet. Despite these revelations, Chris Tucker has denied all allegations, claiming he never even met Jeffrey Epstein.
You knew Jeffrey Epstein, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. We flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different. That was a humanitarian trip to Africa, and I met him on that trip because it was his plane. I didn't know who plane we was getting on, but it was a whole bunch of dignitary people. We was with a delegation, and I met him, and you don't know people what they do in their private lives, so yeah.
But tell me this, Chris. You was on this private plane, and you could tell that it was a private plane because they called it, was it Lolita Express?
Oh, yeah, it was a private plane, yes. Oh, yes.
But wait a minute. You didn't never go to that island, did you?
No.
Chris Tucker's connections don't stop there. He's also been linked to Sean Diddy Combs, and according to some reports, maintained ties to Harvey Weinstein. The pattern is clear. Every time one criminal is taken down, two more step in to fill the void. You'd think Epstein's arrest and death would have shut down the network he controlled, but it didn't. The ring continues, with new players quietly taking over where he left off.
It's so tangled. The whole thing is just, I think everybody who looks at it realizes this is a rabbit hole that just goes to the center of the earth. And there's so many people involved in that. Here's the big question that people ask. If there was a Jeffrey Epstein, and it seems like all these things he was involved in, is there a Jeffrey Epstein right now that we don't know about?
There's a million of them.
A million of them.
I mean, this is why I find this. This is not the core of what I focus on, but I find it a really interesting field of study because it helps understand so many other U.S. government institutions and the relationship between government and private business.
The clearest evidence that Epstein's network is still active? The silence of his victims. Many remain too afraid to speak out, fully aware of just how powerful Epstein's allies were. Virginia Giuffre was among the first to break that silence, sharing photos of herself with Prince Andrew years before any official investigation took hold. She bravely called out the perpetrators and was quickly silenced for her efforts.
I still believed in his power. I still believed in his money and the people that he knew. So I was grateful just to get out alive.
Was there a time there where you thought you wouldn't get out alive?
Yeah, there were a few times. And there was a few times I didn't know if I was going to make it or not.
Is that by your own hand or by how you're being treated, or?
By how I was being treated to some of the people that I was tricked out to.
So what made you fear for your life? What was happening to you?
It was physical. It was very physical.
Virginia Giuffre's testimony and the photographic evidence she provided forced Prince Andrew into the spotlight, leading to the loss of his royal title. Just weeks ago, he was even arrested by UK authorities for his involvement with Epstein. Tragically, Virginia never lived to see justice unfold. She had announced plans to publish a book exposing everyone she encountered during her time on Epstein's island. Before it could be released, she was struck by a truck, survived the incident, but allegedly took her own life days later. The story takes an even darker turn. Shortly before her death, Virginia had tweeted a chilling warning. She wrote, "I am making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and GP. If something happens to me, for the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me to protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quiet." Her words hint at the very real danger she faced and the shadowy forces still protecting Epstein's network.
Welcome back and Alive Now. I'm Austin Westfall. Breaking news coming in, some sad news to share. We're learning this from the New York Post, several other outlets reporting this as well. Virginia Giuffre, the most prominent victim of the late convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, took her own life on Thursday. This is just weeks after she made headlines for saying that she had days to live after she claimed to have been hit by a bus. A statement given to NBC News was quoted as such from the 41-year-old's family. It says, "It's with utterly broken hearts that we announce that Virginia passed away last night at her farm in Western Australia. She lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and trafficking." The New York Post says that Giuffre took legal action against billionaire financier Epstein in 2015, alleging that she was trafficked at age 16 after his ex-lover and convicted Madam Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her from her job as a locker room attendant at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. The mom of 3, according to the Post, also alleged that she was forced to have sex with disgraced Prince Andrew 3 times when she was 17, including at Epstein's Little St. James Island in New Mexico and in New Mexico, and in Maxwell's London home, where a notorious photo of her with King Charles' eldest brother was taken. The Post says the allegations became the biggest scandal to rock the royal family in a generation. Again, hearing of the sad news just within the past hour, Virginia Giuffre, the most prominent victim of late convicted Jeffrey Epstein, took her own life on Thursday. It was announced on Friday, her death. She was 41 years old, her family confirming this.
Some online critics have argued that Virginia's case was irrelevant, pointing out that Epstein was already dead when she claimed she was being targeted. But that raises a critical question. Who was she really afraid of? According to Joe Rogan, the answer lies in the powerful network Epstein was tied to, high-ranking government officials and billionaires around the globe. These are the people who remain in control, and the ones who continue to cast a long shadow over those who dare to speak out.
The point I'm getting to here is, given Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in the BCCI network, given Jeffrey's involvement in the 1990s with all the foreign policy activities happening in the Middle East at that time, given Jeffrey Epstein's involvement through the early 2000s Clinton era and everything, given his involvement in everything from Israeli to Saudi to British to French high-level government officials, can you Jeffrey Epstein was investigated by the SEC in the 1980s. He was one of the two people who ran the biggest Ponzi scheme in history at the time in the United States, the Towers financial collapse. Epstein's business partner goes to jail for like 30 years or 20 years or whatever. But Epstein skates completely free. Epstein gets involved in this huge fraud in the U.S. Virgin Islands with this, like $1 billion fraud case in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Never prosecuted for any of it. Why is that? Well, one is, he may have, we know in the U.S. Virgin Islands case, he was sponsoring the campaigns, basically, of the politicians there. The prosecutors answer to the politicians. Could be that. But I would be shocked if they're in 40 years of this Where's Waldo, Forrest Gump, he's always in the room, in 40 years of American foreign policy and intelligence activity, money sourcing for that, for all the crimes that Epstein committed, the concern was the same one they had with Rolando Masfer. Don't bring the case, and if you do, bring it in a highly limited way. And that's exactly what happened in 2006, the first time he was indicted.
Two high-profile names recently surfaced in the new Epstein files: Elon Musk and U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. Musk appears in emails from 2012 to 2013 discussing possible meetings, travel plans, and even a potential visit to Epstein's Caribbean island. One email allegedly has Musk asking, "What day or night will be the wildest party on your island?" A striking contrast to his claim that he simply refused Epstein's invitations. The documents suggest Epstein was trying to position himself as a key connector within Musk's social and professional circles. Musk maintains he never visited the island or flew on the infamous Lolita Express, insisting the emails are being misinterpreted or selectively presented. Still, the files confirm one thing: he knew Epstein. Meanwhile, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick was caught on camera denying presence on Epstein's island, despite evidence suggesting otherwise, adding yet another layer to the growing web of influential figures connected to Epstein's network.
Is double doors, I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors, and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, "Massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage?" And he says, "Every day." And then he gets weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, "And the right kind of massage."
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, "I'm sorry, we have to go." And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Really?
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Oh.
And so I look back at it as a gift.
Yes.
He gave me a gift.
Yes.
Of a voice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's my story. A one and absolutely done.
That claim falls apart under scrutiny. Not only did Lutnick meet with Epstein multiple times afterward and invest millions with him, but he also brought his children to Epstein's island. One email between the two reads, "Hi Jeff, we are landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon and planning to head over to St. Bart's, Anguilla on Monday at some point. Where are you located? What is the exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple, Michael and Marcy Lehrman, with me on my boat, and each of us has 4 children, 2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, an 11, and a 7-year-old. The level of detail leaves little doubt about the closeness of Lutnick's relationship with Epstein and the chilling access his family had to the infamous network.
And a top Justice Department official says the review of the Jeffrey Epstein files is over. The same official indicated there would be no new charges. Now the Trump administration is facing backlash from Epstein's survivors and Democrats. This was California Congressman Ro Khanna yesterday.
There is a demand for elite accountability, but the survivors' lawyers that I've talked to have said that the survivors are still upset. They're upset that many of their names accidentally came out without redactions, and they want to make sure the rest of the files come out.
CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us from our Washington bureau with more on this. Scott, you've been sifting through as much of this as you can. What's in this so-called final batch?
It's a process. We're still working through millions of pages here, Errol. And it's worth noting these were released more than 40 days after the legal deadline for the Department of Justice to do so. No one besides Epstein and former associate Ghislaine Maxwell has been charged, but the Department of Justice insisting its work is done.
According to Joe Rogan, there's a chilling reason Epstein was so closely connected to some of the world's most powerful men. Allegedly, he was running a blackmail operation, luring these elites to his island and secretly recording them in compromising situations. This, Rogan suggests, is how Epstein maintained influence and ensured his network stayed untouchable.
You can't just have it chaos over there. I bet it was a real good honeypot where there's a lot of sophisticated intellectual discourse. You got a lot of brilliant people there. You've got great music, you know. You got like famous people are hanging around too.
Yeah.
It's like, it seems really cool. And then, if there's blackmail, the blackmail is like snuck into all this.
Yeah.
Snuck in, come to the room with the cameras. And next thing you know, you're doing cocaine. Oh, I can't believe I'm doing this, but you know, you never get to an island.
Yeah.
You don't get to do this very often. I mean, I'm so busy with my CEO job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man.
And then next thing you know, you're donating money to whatever they tell you to.
But it's like, how many senators just voted against releasing this shit, man? It's just it's like there's two votes that are happening. The UFO disclosure thing, they keep voting against that.
Yeah.
And the Epstein list, they keep voting against that.
Right.
What? And also, politically, it can't serve you to talk about a bad list. The list of people who said, let's protect people who like have done horrific shit to kids. You don't want to be on that list, but whatever's on that list must be so destabilizing. 51-49.
Okay, the Senate voted 51-49 to defeat an amendment that would have forced the Department of Justice to release all files related to Jeffrey Epstein. The vote was largely along party lines,
sides.
with 2 Republicans joining all Democrats in supporting the amendment.
Oh, wait, not both sides. It was the Republicans voting against this.
It says 2 Republicans joining the Democrats in supporting the amendment to defeat it. So why are the Democrats interested in defeating it?
There's a reason FBI Director Chris Wray appeared to downplay what was in the Epstein files. He claimed the files contained no videos and no evidence of blackmail. But recent releases from the Department of Justice tell a very different story, showing multiple celebrities caught in compromising situations, directly contradicting Wray's statements and hinting at just how far-reaching Epstein's network truly was.
The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." These 2 photos, please put the photos back up. These 2 photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew.
Not just the video, we're reviewing everything as meticulously as we can, because that's what we owe the American people. That's our job. And I don't want to rush to the sticks or the podium and just say, hey, look what we found.
Right.
And then be like, oh, sorry, I forgot the 4 seconds. If we miss 4 seconds, and be like, oh, well, it's in the 4 seconds you missed.
Right.
So I'm
How much can you talk about what you've seen?
Not yet. Just what I've told you.
Can you say you've seen anything?
No, that's the point, that there's nothing in there, like in the video. You guys would be bored.
You're talking about the video of the suicide. But what about the video from the island?
Oh, sorry. So you're talking about 2 different things. So
sorry.
So again, we're going to give you everything we can, and people have to remember, we're not going to re-victimize women. We're not going to put that back out there. It's not happening, because then he wins. Not doing it. You want to hate me for it? Fine. Again, logical play out. If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
If you have access to it.
If I have it. Period.
Right.
If I have it.
So
where else would it be?
Right. If you have it.
Right.
But you can't say that you have it.
No, we're giving you everything we have.
So far.
Everything we have so far is
Have
the
you guys
universe.
gone over all the video that's available?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what takes so much damn time.
Right.
And
is there video from the island?
Not of what you want.
So why did Chris Wray lie? And who else is being protected? Thousands of pages in the Epstein files remain heavily redacted, with hundreds of names completely blacked out. These aren't the victims. They're the perpetrators. The very people Epstein's network was built to shield.
Lawmaker claimed the files included one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. Whoa.
Yeah, man. See, this right here, this is scary.
This is how communism gets started.
This
is when they attack, they realize like this is like indefensible, and it gets to the point where people are like, maybe Mom Donnie's right.
Epstein didn't just socialize. He acted as a connector, introducing billionaires to politicians, politicians to celebrities, and investors to global elites. Some even speculate that he may have operated as an intelligence agent, adding a shadowy layer to the web of influence he built.
Get real and
What
say,
do you, if I gun to your head, what do you think your best assessment of what Epstein, who was Epstein, who was he working for?
well, I don't know, right? So I'm just guessing. Everybody wants to say he was working for the Mossad. He very well could have been. He could have been working for the CIA. He could have been a guy who was on his own, but also working with them, right? Like a guy that they used, but they never fully endorsed.
Like an asset?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy who could move money around.
Right.
He definitely...
Good at laundering money.
The moving money around stuff was very weird because he had money through no way that anybody could ever explain.
Yeah.
He had an enormous amount of money through no way that nobody could ever explain. Which, you know, if you're state-funded, you're funded by Israel, and Israel's funded by America, and, you know, there's also NGOs and nonprofits, and there's ways to move money around where you can give this guy money.
Yeah.
So he was like... Weinstein, who is an economist, right? Weinstein's a legitimate mathematician.
Eric?
Yeah. So when Eric met him, his first inclination was he was a fraud.
He's a construct.
Yeah, a construct. And did he tell you the whole story about the girl sitting on his lap?
Yep.
So Epstein, while he's meeting with Eric Weinstein for the first time, has a beautiful girl sitting on his lap, and a woman, I shouldn't say girl. He said she was like in her 20s, and she's sitting on his lap, and he's bouncing around, start juggling around while
And he's asking math questions.
yeah, talking serious. So he was obviously nerd fishing. He was fishing for nerds, and I think he caught a lot of nerds in that net. There's a lot of those guys
100%.
that wound up going to that island. They probably thought, this is great. We get to party.
One more question. Richard Lardner from the Associated Press. Mr. Secretary, were you ever made aware at any point in your handling of this case if Mr. Epstein was an intelligence asset of some sort?
So there has been reporting to that effect, and let me say there's been reporting to a lot of effects in this case, not just now but over the years, and again, I would hesitate to take this reporting as fact. This was a case that was brought by our office. It was brought based on the facts. And I look at that reporting and others. I can't address it directly because of our guidelines. But I can tell you that a lot of reporting is just going down rabbit holes.
Epstein started out as a financier and financial analyst with no ties to Hollywood, but somehow every major celebrity seemed to cross paths with him. Photos, flight logs, and guest lists that later surfaced revealed just how extensive his network really was. Even Terrence Howard admitted that visiting Epstein's island was so routine for some celebrities that he felt left out when others were invited and he wasn't.
Did you hear any stories about Epstein in Hollywood, or he wasn't in Hollywood?
No, I mean, when I would hear about Chris Tucker and people hopping on the plane to go there, I didn't know that Epstein was, the bad guy that he is now. But I was like, damn, I would love to go. I didn't know what was happening.
No one talked about Epstein.
No, nobody.
Harvey, they did, but not Epstein.
They didn't talk about Epstein. I didn't know. But hell, I could have easily ended up over there if he had invited me over there, because you think, okay, I'm going with the Hollywood move. That's how you get there. Like I wasn't invited to the Puffy parties. I wasn't invited to any of those things. So there's a part of me that's so grateful that I wasn't invited. But back then I felt excluded. Back then I felt like, oh, I must be doing something wrong. I wish I had participated in some of the druggery, and then wouldn't have alienated people that were good friends that could have been good friends, because I still ended up participating in the druggery when I got older. But at the time, I just didn't want to do it because, I had these other things that were pressing upon me. Now, I didn't get stuck into druggery, but yeah, it would have been nice to take some walks. When I look back, in my 30s.
Could have ended nasty.
It could have ended nasty.
So the fact that you didn't is probably a better thing.
So the universe places you, you can't really regret anything, but there's still parts of me that's like, wow, I dodged a bullet with Epstein. I dodged a bullet because I wasn't invited to those places.
This is the very island where rumors have long circulated that Jeffrey Epstein may have hidden evidence or even buried victims. Over the years, investigators, journalists, and former employees have reported strange, unexplained activity, fueling speculation about the dark secrets that may still lie hidden there.
Can just say, okay, I'm going to swim to St. Thomas. They can't do that. It's not like a person who's there and needs help that they can sneak away and run outside and flag down a vehicle or flag down a police car or run to the nearest police station like they might be able to do on St. Thomas, on the main island. The island is isolated. So that kind of isolation is really what you have to look at when you start to think, how could this have happened for so long?
I think the picture you paint is a terrifying one of isolation, but also power. And I just wonder why the people who worked for Jeffrey Epstein weren't terrified for the girls going over there. They knew how isolated that island was. They knew the ages of those girls. They saw powerful men there. Why weren't they terrified? Why didn't they become whistleblowers?
Well, one thing I do know, first of all, is that there are the non-disclosure agreements that Jeffrey Epstein had all of the employees, if not most of them, sign. Then they had to agree not to disclose any information to law enforcement or anyone else regarding what goes on that island. And even after Jeffrey Epstein's death, those non-disclosure agreements are still in place and still enforced by the estate. So this was just one of the ways that you can pretty much intimidate or silence people. But in addition to that, when you see someone connected with powerful people who may visit the island or he may be involved with, whether it doesn't have to be here, it could be anywhere in the world, and it's known that these powerful people are his friends and associates, that alone is intimidating to the ordinary citizen.
Over the years, hundreds of people crossed paths with Epstein, both socially and professionally, and many have denied any involvement in his crimes. Yet the unanswered questions keep this story alive. Who helped Epstein build his web of influence? And if he was just one piece of a much larger network, who else was operating behind the scenes? The mystery continues, and the truth may be far darker than most imagine.